So hi everyone, welcome to Overdice episode 2. Again, I'm Lily, and with me I have Tony. Say hi, Tony.
Hi.
Kevin. Say hi, Kevin.
Hello.
He is currently a giraffe. And our special guest, Drew. Drew, say hi to the internet.
Hi, Internet. Lovely to meet you all.
So why don't we kick this off with last episode, the three of us, talked about how we got into gaming in general, and then also how we got into being a game master. So Drew, why don't you tell us how you became a gamer and a game master?
Okay. Started out. I have three older brothers. They got me into games. That's the long story short. Played my first tabletop role-playing game in high school. Played third edition Dungeons and Dragons, and
Yay.
my friends had the rule book. They all knew how to play, but no one wanted to GM. So they gave me the rule book, and then I read like a couple thousand pages, and then that became my job. So that's brings me to where I am today.
Nice. Yeah, so thank you for joining us. And today's episode, we're discussing mistakes GMs make because, we are, despite our appearances, we're not actually perfect. You may think we are, but that is just what we do. We are very good at tricking people. Or in my case, not, just being openly bumbling. So the first mistake...
Never happens.
and that definitely was not recorded for the internet, like the second episode of Roleplay 2 will not have any bumbling or mistakes I make. It has several. We'll discuss it in this topic. But anyways, let's talk about over planning. Who wants to touch on it first? Over planning as a GM as a mistake. Who wants to tackle this first?
Tell me.
I got this one. Thank you, Kevin. Let's see.
I got the
last,
next one.
yeah, the last GURPS game that I ran that was a sci-fi sort of. I decided everybody's going to start in space on a spaceship, and there was going to be 100 characters on the spaceship. And then I had this fantastic idea to make a spreadsheet of every single 100 characters, and I spent like the afternoons and evenings when I wasn't doing homework and should have been doing homework, basically making single line character sheets for 100 characters and then 30 NPCs, and it was a terrible idea, and I ended up with a like a spreadsheet that couldn't fit
And
on my
their
monitor.
background stories and their family.
Background stories, and
Their
each one had a
age.
middle name, and it's one of those where like halfway through it's like, what the hell was I thinking? But I'm already this far, I might as well finish. And at the end of it, it worked really great, but I ended up doing it like during sessions as players were arguing just so that I could finish this spreadsheet.
And then
And-
during your first session, they left the spaceship, and then none of these characters mattered anymore.
Pretty much, yeah.
He railroaded us. He kept us isolated on the spaceship in space for a while, so it was helpful for like a good,
Yeah.
not 30 of them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The other 70 we didn't really
Yeah.
interact with at all. But they were there.
They existed.
Yep.
And Tony knew. And Tony knew what they were
Yeah.
doing in the free
Once
time.
everybody, yeah, within the first session of getting on the ground, like 2 NPCs died anyway, so it's not like it mattered in the first place.
Brutal.
Poor Joe Schmo. Joseph
Yes.
Schmo. Anyways. Yeah, anyone else have any stories about overplanning or ways to avoid overplanning? We're also trying to learn from our mistakes. That is kind of the idea.
I think my first campaign, I did a similar thing with fewer characters, but I also made myself come up with voices for all of them, which then I found out was actually all the same voice because I know how to make one voice.
Great.
but I spent so many hours thinking about it. I drew a very detailed map of the first area that my players were exploring, and I mean detailed in that it was it was drawn better than it should have been, and like I colored it in. I made like fancy mountains. Just tons of didn't matter.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on this.
I quack.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
It's pretty great. Didn't you?
That's-
Oh, maybe go. Yes.
The
I
answer is
remember.
yes.
I remember now.
And Kevin is special, and he gets merps.
Merp.
Yeah.
There's a
Absolutely.
special one
He's-
for you.
Because he's
Wait,
special.
so was that one for real, or was that the sound effect?
No one can tell.
Oh.
But anyway, so does anyone have any suggestions on ways to avoid over planning other than just don't?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Just
You like
calm
Kevin and
down
make it up as you go.
and
Well,
stop it.
I mean, I think that it's fine to overplan and then just note the things that you didn't need to do.
Yeah.
Think, like, write down the stuff that maybe you missed, like you didn't do enough planning on, so that you can shift your efforts in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that overplanning is necessarily a bad thing in itself if it's something you enjoy doing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Tony
Yeah, if
loves
you
a
get-
cheat.
If you get value out
I
of
do.
planning, then building a world or making a spreadsheet of 100 NPCs, then absolutely, that's fine. It's only when you have the players like go totally sideways and all of that planning, is just irrelevant to the role play session. You get bummed out about it, like, or get angry with the players or frustrated. That's when it becomes a problem. So it's just find it better. Just try not, like, if you do overplan, just don't be too attached.
And we'll get to that soon. Why don't we
Yeah.
talk about the flip side of underplanning? Kevin, you said you had a bit about this, and I do too. That will be relevant.
Oh man.
Do you want me to go first?
I mean, no. I can think of a few sessions that definitely went a lot shorter
Mhm.
than I'd originally intended, because I was like, this part needs to be planned out, because otherwise it's gonna suck, and I want to be awesome.
Oh man, I'm really tired today, guys. Maybe we should call it early.
Yeah, it's like definitely. It's like, and now there's owlbears.
I remember distinct occurrences of this happening.
Yes. Oh, it's like, yeah, just throw some things in and just have them fight it out, or just not a lot happens, or things drag on as a result of this, or like you just kind of like flying by the seat of your pants, and
Like, you can feel that it's kind of boring. And
yeah. Or
Yeah.
just like, there's not enough material behind it to help you go on, because you can only do, like, you can definitely go places with just pure improvisation, but there is a lot of value to at least having some of the basics established.
Yeah. Speaking of underplanning and that kind of thing, in the second episode of Roleplay Stew, which will go up before this video does, I had spent a lot of time reading the rulebook, and then remembered like 3 hours before the session that I had to do some prep for the session, and then so spent very little time prepping it. I'm sure you guys couldn't tell, but as a result, it ended up leaving my planned encounter. Like, I ended up fleshing out like the starting area and the characters, but then once you get to the planned encounter, I was just kind of throwing stuff in there, and it ended up being a really kind of boring fight. I'm going to try to make it a little bit more exciting in post, but it ended up being a little bit dull, and the players were done sooner than I'd hoped they'd be, and also dragged on forever, which is part of reason why they were done with playing for a bit. So the issue with underplanning is I think the issue with overplanning and underplanning is that you need to be able to budget your time and plan ahead, so you don't get stuck with either one, spending too much time on a thing and then neglecting some other part, because you can both over and underplan at the same time.
I found out very quickly as a GM, if you have the ability to think on your feet and or procedurally generate, like Minecraft does, as soon as you go into a new area, it's a forest, because forests go here, and it's actually believable, and you can still keep the immersion for your players, then it works. On the other hand, if you need to generate your entire world or globe or universe ahead of time, like Skyrim or Oblivion would, where it's a huge expanse and then you just drop your players in the middle of it, then that works great. If you can't think on your feet, whatever helps you get the players the best result. If you need to overplan. I really enjoyed working on the spreadsheet, but it took a lot of my time that could have been spent building more plot paths of whatever flowchart the players wanted to take.
I think I have two things about underplanning, and I think the first one, and I'm going to make eye contact with my camera here.
Tell us about it.
It is not your fault if, as a GM, if the game isn't as fun as you think it should be. It is everyone's responsibility to be having fun, to be contributing to the game. If you underplan and then things end up turning out kind of weird, you don't feel bad. This is not your job. You're a player just as much as anybody else. And so I think you should be like, you have a little bit of responsibility as like kind of being in the driver's seat, but you know, it's like you're basically just sitting around like shooting with your friends. It's on everybody to be having a good time. And the other part about underplanning, I forgot what it was, because that's what happens when you don't plan and you don't write down what you were about to say.
And this is a
doing
classic
so well.
example. No, make something up. Do the GM thing. Make something up now.
And then you fight owlbears.
All right. Great. Wait, Kevin, can we have that again, please? I didn't have you highlighted. Beautiful.
That's my owlbear voice.
That's great. All right, well, this kind of gets into the whether or not the story is exciting and stuff, and the player's role versus the GM's role. Who the story is about and who's telling the story, and you know, who is telling the story, and whether it's the GM telling the story or the players telling the story, or in my opinion, it should be a collaborative of both, and who the story is about. Like, who are the heroes of the story, and who the focus should be on. So, anyone?
Well, obviously the focus should be on the carefully crafted NPCs that you spent hours working on.
Snark.
Obviously.
Yes.
Are any real answers, Kevin?
The players!
Okay.
And what they're doing.
What was the one part that was used in Dungeon World? To be a fan of your
Yes, one
your
of the
players?
principles of Dungeon World is to be a fan of your players' characters, particularly the story that they're creating, and taking a collaborative part of the story, not just trying to murder your friends within a socially acceptable system, but telling a story with the players. So that's what that is.
Right.
Yeah, I think that actually came from Apocalypse World.
Likely.
And then because Dungeon World is one of those like powered by the Apocalypse like set of games, right?
systems. Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
it's a framework.
Okay. Yeah, just for the sake of giving credit.
Yeah, no. Go ahead. Yeah, it's good to give credit to things, but that principle, as it is called, is something that we are a fan of,
For sure.
as
Yeah.
we've mentioned already a few times.
I don't know. I do feel there is a little bit where, I've definitely had, like, going back to my original comment that I made as as a joke, but now that I'm thinking about it, there have definitely been times, or like, you do make an NPC and you're trying to like create this situation for the players, and there is like, obviously the DM has a lot of control over the story. But sometimes the players like to go out of the way to kill that story. So there is also that other side where players sometimes, should let the DM do the thing, and create the story. Because, like, the story is a part of everyone's responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
But
Like
the,
when
G-
we forgot
the
the
DM
bomb
is
at Grove
powering
Town.
it along. What was that, Tony?
Like when we forgot that high explosive bomb and blew up a town by accident, and then we had to basically flee the entire region. Yeah, that's a thing.
They spent so much time defusing it, and then they just left.
Eric said he had it, okay? Eric said that he had it in his pocket. I
They just
believed
left.
Leovan believed him. I knew it wasn't there, but this is your player character knowledge. My character believed him because he trusted him for some unknown reason, or he trusted him.
If the enemy NPCs just went back and reset it
Yeah.
after they had left.
Oh, and then I kicked a door and stabbed an innocent woman, and then called her a cultist.
Yes, and then explosions.
And then explosions. It was terrible and horrible and hilarious.
If only your player or your character had a chance to play with Eric before.
He had. He knew Eric's character, and yet still trusted him because Leovan Swordsteel was not the brightest dwarf out there, as was firmly established.
It wasn't just on her. There were multiple people there.
Yes.
That's one of the things, like player dynamics and character dynamics. Like, if you have a good player group, oftentimes you don't even have to try to let your players tell their own story. Like, they'll do it for you, and it's wonderful as a DM when it happens. Sometimes they need a little more nudging, and sometimes you got to listen to your players in the same respect, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a good advice.
Yes.
Let them be awesome, or try to be awesome. And if they fail, make sure they do it gloriously.
And we'll get to that as well. So many things. Speaking of the next thing, becoming too attached to characters or plots that you create and the player is destroyed in a fiery explosion of sadness.
You never set my towns on fire.
We always set your towns on fire. Always.
Every single time.
Now they're made out of stone.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Got him. This town is made out of waterfalls.
Yes. Ooh,
What is this table made out of? Fire retardant materials.
But anyway, so becoming too attached to characters or plots you create then that get ignored or destroyed by players.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one is the topic kind of speaks for itself, right? Like yeah, exactly. The players' characters are the cool part of what's happening all the time, and like I think this also kind of goes more hand in hand with with over planning. Like it's easy to get it attached to your time.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that I have a story that kind of also goes along with the like remembering who's telling the story and who the story is about. Is my first time as a player, we were playing Call of Cthulhu, and my friend was like, "Okay, I brought this game up. I'll try and GM." And he gave us this like pretty beautiful introductory paragraph. He clearly spent some time writing, and then introduced us to a character. And I pulled my gun out and shot him in the face because I knew that he was important. Just from the way that the intro paragraph had happened, and because like he was one of those players to me.
So you did it back. Revenge.
This is the thing I was talking about earlier. And they just
one of those players.
kills them.
And it's like it was not something that I should have done, and but at the same time, I think it goes to show like how over planning can really hurt a session, because I did that, and then he actually just had nothing. Like I actually killed the main character that was going to be like the babysitter, which we can talk about babysitter characters later as well. Mm-hmm. Like he was supposed to be the babysitter character. He was supposed to also be the big bad end boss, and then like all of the plot revolved around this guy, and he just like didn't have anything for us to do afterwards.
Really short session.
Yeah, and like I think that's the lesson here, is that over planning can become no planning, and becoming too attached to a character can become no planning.
Yeah.
See, and that's one of the things. Like, even if your players did that, and then suddenly your big bad boss and your main babysitter character is suddenly gone, and then if they were running a crime syndicate, suddenly there's a power vacuum in a crime syndicate. How do the players react to that? It's once you get the hang of, oh, my players just took my 16 hours worth of planning and destroyed half my character spreadsheet of 160 people. Yeah. Then you can, oh, okay, well, we'll just do this instead.
All right, Kevin. So, what's the worst thing you've ever done as a player?
I'm very nice, though. Oh, I tackled someone. That was the
Sorry about
worst
that.
thing I did.
In real life, or
Straight tackled them, yes. As a player, we were playing Paranoia, and I was not
Yes.
pleased with them trying to grab my sheet. Like, I went over to privately talk to the GM, and then someone ran over to my sheet, and I wasn't going to have any of that. So I just straight, like, dove at him, and he let go very quickly. He was not prepared to be physically assaulted at that time. So I got my character sheet
that
back.
makes sense. Nice.
I must say, I didn't like how he was running that session. It was, Paranoia is a different topic. I like love so much about it, but there were certain aspects that was like made me very angry.
I hope to make Kevin angry
Anyways.
again soon.
Anyways,
I'm
most
honestly
of the time,
surprised.
I'm a lovely player.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
honestly surprised that you can get angry. You just seem like such a happy person.
Oh,
I-
Kevin hulks out sometimes. It's glorious.
I'm very competitive. That's when it happens. That's when I like tackle small soccer girls and other stuff, and
So,
like
Saboteur.
Right.
yeah,
Dirty,
it's
filthy sab.
yeah, no, it's I can get aggressive, yes, and I do try to let that out sometimes when I play Dungeons and Dragons. Because sometimes I let NPCs be very angry people, and they raise their voice, and it's fun when that happens for me. I can just let it all out.
And occasionally he has very, very evil characters. And that's obviously
love
not coming
them.
from Kevin, who is a good-hearted person deep down, you know? The evil is purely fabrication. It's fiction. It does not any way derive from Kevin's own inner feelings.
Yeah, it's not what I think about, you know.
Well, anyways, not to, bring you guys back to topic, but let's discuss railroading.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I did a thing.
Don't railroad
And it's
me,
usually-
Lily.
Pretty transparent when it happens.
But really, let's talk about railroading. Does anyone have anything to talk about it? Because I am guilty of having done it before, and I also want to discuss when railroading could be appropriate.
Like on a spaceship?
Or say on a one-shot session that you're trying to keep the characters on the basic story to get things, through the point. And
To make sure that you get like a balanced introduction to the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yes.
Or even just in a one-episode thing where you're just trying to get the characters to get a balanced experience as well. Because, they might just talk to someone the entire time. Well, that's fun, but if you're introducing them to a new system, you want to get them to go do a thing to get a varied experience. So, but yeah, let's talk about railroading. Let's talk about why it's bad first, because we like talking about, why things are bad. I don't know.
I mean, Drew brought up his story, and that applies very well here.
That is true. Drew, do you want to talk
They
about...
jumped right off.
Yeah. Railroading. So, tell us about extra bit about railroading. If you
okay,
have any
well,
more
besides for the fact that when you railroad, that tends to be the only thing that you have, and you'll get so caught up in the destruction of all of your work that it becomes hard to think on your feet. I just think railroading is boring from a GM perspective. Like, I want to not know what's going to be happening for the next 3 hours of my life. I like some surprises to come my way, and I think that's that's my thing about railroading. And
yeah, there's magical things when players take odd turns. Like, let's say there's a mercenary army besieging the Dwarven city, and then suddenly your characters go in and make best friends with the commander of that army and convert the entire army to worship the characters. Because that's what players do. They take let's do a war simulation and then make best friends with all of the invading army.
Turn it into a frat party simulation.
Yes, and then you became the god of frat and party bro. So that's the thing that railroading can take away, is the magic that players can bring to the story, and make it a interesting collaborative story.
Or they scout the cultist camp and get converted to that cult.
Yes.
Good job, guys.
And these are the good players, the good guys.
Yeah.
This is actually another thing that I read from the Apocalypse World handbook. It was another one of those, how they kind of tell you, like, a lot of games will give you like suggestions on like, this might be how you want to GM, but Apocalypse World is like, no, this is the rules for GMing.
Yeah.
All right. So like one of those rules was that you play to find out what happens. And like I think that's what always stuck with me whenever like railroading comes up, is that it's like you're actually breaking the rules of how to GM when you railroad people.
Yeah.
Depends on the game you're playing, but it's just something that it's how I think about it.
It does take out a lot of the fun of GMing. Because a lot of the fun of GMing is the surprises, the new things. You already spent all week working on, your characters and background and stuff, and then suddenly your characters take a left turn and you introduce a completely new set of characters that you didn't even know. And you pulled out of, somewhere.
Thin air.
Thin air, yes. Pulled out of thin air. Thank you, Tony. So, yeah.
So now that we've bashed on railroading, we want to bring up when it works, the benefits.
Yes,
Yeah.
the few times when it's maybe a little bit okay. I mean, we did touch on that a little bit with like one shots and short things where you want to give a balanced experience within one session, where you can allow your players some deviance, but you want to bring them back to the little kind of thing you had prepped. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do a one shot with complete freedom for the players. It just sometimes the players might need a little bit of encouragement. So there's that. Also, the one time I went into something deliberately planning on railroading was actually for a murder mystery. And despite my intention, and it was actually murder mystery on a train, so I was railroading the players on a train. So it was extra railroad. It was great, but the best part.
That's the time that railroading is okay.
No, but the thing is, it didn't work. I gave them a plot and I gave them things they needed to achieve, and they discovered all the clues, but they didn't share them with each other. Now, admittedly, this was my first time GMing. These players were their first time ever gaming, and they just didn't talk to each other and discovered all the clues individually, and then say they all had different ideas on who the murderer was and who they're going to go after next. Well, I made it obvious who the next victim was, but the thing is, they actually didn't. They didn't stop the young Duke Ferdinand from getting. Not Ferdinand, something. But anyways, World War I started 20 years early, and it was their fault because they didn't talk to each other. So despite railroading, it didn't work.
Good job, guys.
They just refused to carry along the plot. They just decided to do crazy random things on the train anyways. So
sounds lovely.
Does anyone have any other things of how railroading can be useful?
One thing that I've had a good experience with railroading was when I was first starting out, I would run pre-built modules, especially in stock 3rd edition, because there was a huge library, and I really wasn't creative yet on building worlds or building campaigns. So I would pick up off the shelf a pre-built module and run that module. And my players went into it knowing this is a pre-built module and it is a railroaded campaign.
Yeah. There you go.
If they were looking for an open world, they said, we want an open world, and I would spend the 3 weeks or whatever to make an open world. But if they're like, hey, we just want a one-off weekend thing, we'll run a pre-built hack pack, then cool, we'll run a real hack pack. But it only worked for me with those, if the players went into it knowing they were on a set path, versus if they had options and they had a split that they could take, or if they put a dart of pinning through my final boss and said, nope, you don't get to make your evil bad speech. we're just gonna, slice your neck across, and now I don't get to say the big bad speech.
Tony, it's okay.
He's still sad. And this was how many years ago?
Yeah, you don't have to talk about it, man. We understand.
But Tony, you brought up exactly what I was going to bring up was railroading works best when you tell the players they're going to be railroaded. Like, everyone goes in knowing, like, okay, we need to be here, and, like, this is the experience they're trying to get. If you just drop them in, it's like, I'm going to DM you guys, then they're like, all right, I'm going to play, and, like, you don't know what they're going to do. I mean, that's part of the joy, but...
It's largely dependent on your player group. If your player group can think on their feet, then you can do a procedurally generated, on your own feet campaign. But if they want to... If it's the kind of player group where you need to tell them the story, and I've had that before, they need that sometimes, and that's okay.
Mm. Yeah.
As surprise players are okay, but players that can't cope with surprises don't do well.
But when you really surprise them, though, and they can't do anything,
Yes.
when they normally are great on the feet, that's the best. And I think you know which part I'm thinking about right now.
We were upset.
Eric was hilarious.
Yeah. Well, he usually is. That's why
He usually is.
Yeah,
I think I have one more scenario I can think of. In that, like, those times when your players ruin all your plans and then you can't think of what else to do, I think it is also okay to be like, hey guys, I actually don't got anything else, and this is kind of stressing me out having to think on my feet right now. So can we actually just pretend you did something else and then continue for a second? And if people would rather actually just continue playing than have nothing to do, then, like, I think that also works. Depends on who you're playing with.
Mm-hmm.
That's what NPCs with time powers are good for. It's like, no, you actually didn't do that. You actually did this instead because I say so.
That's a term you use a lot when you're GMing, Tony, isn't it? Because I say so?
Because I say so. Well, the dice told me so. You didn't even roll. The dice told me so.
No, you just make a roll and then you just say that the result you wanted, despite what is actually going on behind your screen.
DMs never lie about the dice rolls.
Yeah.
Never, no.
Oh man.
Never lie.
Drew, do you have a confession you'd like to make?
I mean, I think my confession being how much I hate the idea of doing that. But, I don't want to start anything with people that might have done it.
Oh, excuse me, cough.
Oh God!
And this is what happens when you get GMs with multiple styles talking with each other. Because it happens.
That's the whole point of Overdice.
Yes,
I
it
did
is.
so much in 4th edition.
You mean Kevin point
Yes,
out?
you did.
Clearly, Kevin point out. The thing
Sometimes you guys needed help.
Yes, we did. But there's times when, as a GM, you want to fake the dice roll, but then the dice are just kind of screwing you and the player over, and it's actually kind of magical how horrible it'll be for everyone, so you kind of have to keep it. Or when it really helps the player, and it moves your plot along, like, 5 clicks faster than you were anticipating. Like when, Drew, when your character won that dice game, like, really easily. That was really lucky rolls for you and really crap rolls for the character you're playing against.
Wait, was that the like I got my soul back?
That's when you got your soul back. Yeah, you weren't
Okay.
supposed to get your soul back.
Yeah.
Rats. But yeah. So actually, there's one point that actually wasn't on the original list that Kevin brought up, or Tony, someone brought it up. But the letting your players, like giving your players the expectations of the session, your expectations, and discussing their expectations, is not really a doing something wrong, but I feel it's a really important part of communication with the players and the GM before starting a game. Because it can make the difference between a really exciting, interesting game and one where everyone's just kind of sitting around looking at each other going, so, what do you do? I'm gonna go outside now. Okay. And it can be really dull. So, communication with your players about expectations and other things. Anyone? Or did I just cover it entirely?
Yeah, I think you got it. Do
I
it.
think you did, yeah.
Okay, well, good. Communication's important, kids. Not just in real life, but also in fantasy gaming. But the next one we have on the list is boring reactions to failures and successes. And Kevin, I'm sure you have something to say about this. You're the one who wrote it.
Wait, what did I write?
You added this to the
This.
list. Boring reactions to failures and successes.
Did I write that? Are
Yes,
you sure?
did. Okay, Tony, do you have something for this?
Did
Like when I break into a room full of potions and alchemy stuff, and then I was like, this is awesome. And then he gives me wonderful little carrots on a stick, and then I try again, and he's like, oh, and you failed. You didn't just fail to get it, and you can try again on another thing. Now you're the captive of somebody who's torturing you. You'll make me know. Thanks, Kevin.
God.
That
Yeah.
was not boring at all.
Yeah, that
Or
was.
it's like,
that was rough.
yes, you succeeded in disabling the cart careening towards you, but in doing so, you knocked off one of the wheels, and that comes skittering across and takes out your healer. That's not boring at all, but it gives players something that they have to react to again, which is kind of like Drew's point that's coming up to.
Yeah. It's good
Yeah,
to make the game not boring, guys. Drew?
No, I mean, I was just going to agree and comment on how that does actually play into the next topic.
Yeah, let's segue to the next topic of yes and no but. Drew, tell us about it.
All right, so I think this is one of those just like I had got the idea from being in like a theater class when I was in high school, and it was just that some improv stuff. Someone says something, and like the Tony's example from earlier, where I shoot the big bad end boss in the head at the start of the game, and instead of saying like, no, but can you have not done that because because I don't have any other work, you can say, yeah, okay, and now there's a power struggle, and now you have all of this like new plot to interact with, or you can, I don't know. I think that there's like it just leaves more room open for interesting failures and or successes. Like I tried to pick this lock, and so say the character succeeds, and you can say, sure, you picked that lock, but you still want there to be a conflict, and so like someone that was in the room on the other side of the door heard the lock turn, or like you could say the same thing, like if they fail, like, okay, you didn't manage to do it, but instead of picking the lock right away, it actually takes you 5 to 10 minutes to pick the lock, and in that time someone came by and heard. Like it's a way of continuing gameplay so that things don't end up just stopping at player rolls, or they can it gives you a natural avenue like to continue. Helps with when you underplan.
Yeah. I mean,
Basically,
yeah, Tony. go
every
ahead.
success or failure should have a condition to it, which requires player interaction as a direct result. Like if you manage to pick the lock, then that's great, and if you didn't pass by that good enough margin, then obviously somebody heard. Or if you failed but not very much, you broke your lockpick, but now you know exactly how the lock works, and it'll take you like no penalties to open it up without a lockpick the next time, as long as there's no guard looking right at you.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Dude, this is actually, man, this talk has made me realize how much of how I GM is a direct result of GMing Apocalypse World.
Well, hey man, if you ever want to run a game, there's always there's guest spots are welcome for Roleplay Stew. Guest
Cool.
GM.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Just got a free 3 weekends.
Yeah, really. But yeah, I mean, like, I think that the rule set in the Powered by the Apocalypse stuff is really good about just forcing you into the yes and no but situation where like based on the roll margin that they get, like if it's a 7 to 9, like they succeeded, but something bad happened. And God, play Powered by the Apocalypse games, everyone.
Well, they're gonna hear.
Plug.
They'll already have heard the first episode of Dungeon World, and there'll be a episode 2 of Dungeon World coming next 3 weeks following the next Roleplay Stew. And most of the awkward bits will be edited out. We're looking through the rules book going, wait,
Right.
but it's a fun. I really enjoyed reading this. One of the few manuals I thoroughly enjoyed reading. GURPS was interesting as a basic book. The GURPS mystery book is another great read particularly about like blood, how like it splatters differently from different heights. It doesn't matter between 18 inches and like 30 feet. It's the same, but then the difference between 18 inches and like the ground, that's what dramatically like shows differently. It's cool stuff. But the reading, back to the point at hand, reading the Dungeon World, playbook with particularly the GM section talking about how to run games is really interesting, and I think really helps you become a better GM. And also, once your players get into it or maybe read it, it actually can help you be a better player as well. I think that's what the system's pushing for. So I like it. I want to keep trying it.
Yep.
Sometimes being a good GM can make you be a better player.
Absolutely.
I think that's definitely true.
And sometimes it hurts.
Sometimes it's hilarious because you know exactly what the GM's doing. You're like, all right, you did that fine, but then I'm gonna go talk to that one dude over there because I'm not supposed to talk to him, but I know he's important later, so I'm gonna go talk to him now.
What's your name?
Hey, what's your name? Who are you? Tell me your life story, random farmer on the side of the road. I've decided you're important to the plot now because I talked to you. You are now important to the plot.
So many people just became important NPCs.
Cardboard cutouts.
You guys always did that to me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We had no idea.
Yeah, whatever. Lilly.
Spoiler alert, she's not.
She did have an idea.
Nah.
They even brought up like a random minion that they were fighting into one of the main villains. And after enough time, this was Eric's doing, by the way.
Oh, that was like Raj.
Oh, Raj.
Raj, yes.
Raj,
That's exactly what I was thinking. He used to just be like this cute, adorable little minion.
Who was
and
part
then
of our group.
Eric kept feeding it more and more power and making deals with it until he eventually like took over like another humanoid and then became a main villain. And Eric was still like, oh, but I still love you. So they could never kill him because the whole party was never committed.
Yeah.
So it was a recurring villain. Not enough to kill him.
I was super committed.
Some people were committed, but like I said, not everyone was.
Yes.
That's why he never died.
The best part was the way he appeared is he just kind of glomped onto actually my player, who then we kind of plotted out of the story. He just glommed onto her and she shook him off, and then Eric decided that he wanted him as his new pet. And that's how he joined the party. Like, it was just like a random, like, it seemed like just a kind of random environment thing.
The lowest of the low. He was a minion. Like a shadow minion. And they were trying to, like, eat them. Like, they were literally clomping onto them, and he decided that was adorable.
Yeah, that's why we're in an evil campaign with you, right, Kevin?
Oh my gosh, you're so evil.
Oh, you're so cute trying to eat us. Yeah, you could be a pet. Anyways, so that covers the stuff we have written. Do you guys want to make any other bits about being a better GM or making fewer mistakes? Aside from the main point of playing and running more games is the best way to get better at this?
I actually did have a question just for the group. How do you guys feel about like babysitter NPCs in general, like as GMs and as players? Like I'm curious.
As a GM, they keep killing them. I almost never bother with them anymore. I'll have NPCs that give relevant information, but I'll spread them out now. I don't really have any main NPCs that like sit with them. I like as a player, I have to say I don't like that so much.
I
But
tried using one in the GURPS campaign I ran with everyone but Kevin as a player. And he started as a babysitter, but the players, this is the elven paladin character guy.
Oh yeah.
With a
You didn't meet
tragic,
him.
dark backstory, which of course I wrote up all before it ever started. But the thing is, I started him as a babysitter, and he's supposed to like help them out when they got stuck and keep them on the right storyline. They were really self-motivated, and he became more of a background character, and then was more of an ambassador for them, and just like, oh yeah, I know this guy, come meet him, because you said you wanted to meet him, so I just happen to know him now, so I can introduce you. Like, he was just kind of traveled along with them and didn't really do the babysitter job at all, and then they left him behind after a certain point. So I don't know.
After he had outlived his usefulness.
No, he just stayed at the Elven City because he was back home. It made sense plot wise,
Yeah.
and we were done using him ever because we never really needed him to begin with. Well, he was useful in the beginning for plot reasons.
sound like you used him as a plot device a few times.
I ended up. The thing is, he started as a babysitter and ended up becoming just an NPC who happened to travel with the party for a chunk of the campaign.
Yeah,
No,
I
that's
mean, I remember the character, and I actually think it was like really useful to have a character to go to, like when you're just like, man, what do we do next?
That's what he was supposed to be, as well as, keep you guys from dying immediately, which he didn't do any part of because there was a dragon, and I wasn't definitely my fault that it was overpowered. It just showed up and was overpowered because that's how stories work, and nearly killed Tony.
Yeah, well, that was Tony's fault.
Obviously.
Didn't get the signs.
Wait, I'm high priority target. Come get me.
Yeah. that was not thought out well.
It was beautiful. Well, no, the thing is, remember I checked with you and asked if you were sure. You said that, and you went, yeah.
That's totally what I said. No, wait, no. Oh.
But it was that moment of overconfidence that made my character realize how much our characters had in common, and that's why we
Yeah.
fell in love.
I know, and it was the cutest
Oh, is this the romance
It
thing?
was the
Yeah,
romance,
that
and the
was
thing
a
is,
thing.
Drew, you committed to it so well, and you were really invested in this romance, despite the fact that the character you're romancing was female, but the player wasn't. But dude, you stayed in character and you invested, and I appreciated that. And Tony, you were awkward as ever in romantic situations, so it was,
And so was
Which
Gemma.
was pretty great.
it was hilarious. I had music ready for when you two of you culminated and had your romantic moment of confession of feelings,
Yes.
and it never happened.
Wait, but Kevin, this moment kind of happened. I just want to let you know that this moment almost happened.
Almost.
We were in a room together. We were we were stripping clothes, and then Gemma got like almost naked, and then just like punched me in the face and ran out of the room or something like that.
And grabbed all her clothes and fled, and then just didn't talk to you
Yes.
for 2 days in game time.
That is clearly the logical thing to do in such a situation. Yeah, that didn't go so well.
Tony's really good at romance, guys. Trust me. He's really good at romance in real life. He's just in games where he's awkward.
Oh my gosh. Also, that's probably like it could be its own topic that we go over romance.
Definitely
in
want to
games.
discuss at some point. Also discuss where it's appropriate and not appropriate to go. Like, for example, in this situation, the characters are getting undressed. We did not describe in detail them
Yeah.
pulling the shoulder off sensually
Fade
and
to
all that
black.
jazz. We just said, they were in a room and they described getting a little bit undressed, and then Gemma said she took everything off, panicked, grabbed everything, punched, and ran. Like, that's how we described it. It never really got into the
whatever.
porny realm. It was romantic.
Of course, it sounds
Yes, let's
incredibly
go.
romantic.
It's Tony we're talking about. Wait, let
You're
me
doing
just...
wonderfully this evening, Lily.
No, that's it. In real life, you're really romantic. It's just in games, you tend to awkward everywhere.
I think that actually that open bit of communication between like players and GM that actually follows into this romance topic, and that it's like these like weird things, if like like you can just be you can like it's you might want to talk about that beforehand if you think that that's a route that might go like in Apocalypse World when there is like specifically sex moves,
Really?
and like yeah, that's like the reason they're in the game is for when characters have sex,
I
and
had no idea.
but it's like so it'll be things like if a brainer has sex with another character, they get to ask them like a certain number of like secret like hidden emotional like character questions, and but so it's like that's an example of the move, but like when a game is going like has the potential to have to deal with that subject, like it's probably one of those things you could bring up like before the game starts, before a session, say, be like, is this something that people actually would think was hilarious to describe in all its sexy and glorious detail, or
Yeah.
should we just fade to black? And
That sounds like a great topic to go, because I think that's worth an entire session on its own, discussing how to handle that kind of stuff. But yeah, communication is important. But yeah, speaking of topics, I think we've covered everything, unless you guys have anything else you want to discuss relating to mistakes GMs make and how to improve and be better.
Basics, yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys or you listeners have any suggestions for discussion topics, feel free to comment below this post. And if you have a topic we like, we'll discuss it during a session of Overdice. Woohoo! And thank you all for coming and being here. And thank you, Drew, for making it out on your very busy schedule.
thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
And now, time for the blooper reel. All right, so you guys are prepared? Peppered? Want me to even say?
Are you prepared?
I'm peppered.
No, peppered.
My Angus is
None of
peppered.
that.
Oh my gosh. I can't even get it out of my face anymore.
Yeah, Kevin, you gotta...
The headphones are just committed. Like, it keeps everything in place.
Is this gonna be you the entire time, Kevin?
No, I can't handle it. It gets way too hot.
It's too much to handle.
Yeah, no, it was like just clamping in all of the heat, and it's too much. It's so warm. This is lovely. But
So, you know,
yeah, no.
you were trying to tell people you weren't weird? This is not gonna help.
It's too late. I mean, it was more like they knew, but there's evidence now.
And it's shared with the world.
I mean, you kind of got that aura about you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's kind of a thing.
All right, so anything we want to discuss before we start the episode, before I launch us in?
Ugh. What's our topic?
Dude, we talked about this. You looked at it today. I know you're just being...
I don't remember.
Kevin, you are an absolute spoon.
Oh, that was right. It was about yes and no but. That was the topic. I got it.
That was one of them.
You are
I
an
remember.
absolute spoon, Kevin. That is what you are. My new favorite insult. An absolute spoon.
You're not even a little spoon. You're a
Absolute spoon.
colossal.
You're just quite the spoon.
Absolutely a spoon. An absolute
Thank
spoon.
you. I'm flattered.
It's like calling someone a turkey. Like, it's along those lines. Anyways, so,
I should actually pull up the list of things that we're talking about.
yes. Kevin, you should do that too.
You mean have your
Yeah.
documentation in front of you like GMs do? I mean,
Because we always
never
plan
do?
everything and never, ever, ever fake things.
Oh yeah, I totally have something up here. Let me just bring it up and not be responding to Facebook or anything like that. No, I'm not
Kevin,
doing
I don't
that.
believe you. Thing is,
I'm totally pulling it up. Click, click, click,
I don't
click.
see you in it. I'm looking at it. I don't see you in it. You cannot.
It lies. It doesn't record that. I'm anonymous.
No, you're not in here. There's not even an anonymous owl or anything. No anonymous
Don't
owlbear.
worry about it. I am there.
Speaking of which, we need to incorporate an owlbear into a campaign again soon. I like owlbears. And by like, I mean I like killing them. Anyways,
You killed so many of them.
I
There's
know,
no
it was
more
so
owlbears.
exciting.
They're all dead.
no,
Aw,
we
Poor
didn't kill all of them.
owlbears.
Not only that,
The animals.
they were eaten.
Yes.
They were devoured.
Yes, they were. It was great.
Oh god, why is there
I mean,
so
at
much
least
white
that's good.
space?
The
Thank you.
topic is mistakes. All right, I got it. That's all I needed to see.
Yeah, basically, everything Kevin does.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good.
Damn.
I mean,
Bye.
Do we actually hang up, or is
Oh,
this
no,
just
no.
the recording?
This is the recording.
ending?
Yeah, that was great, guys.
supposed not say anything for like 5 seconds, Andrew, after the lies were said, and just sit there awkwardly, so that Lily has an easier time cutting it at the end.
As long as I have a good, 1 second of silence, I'm good.
Was cutting it. Was
I'm
close.
sorry. Wait, here. Do we want to say the goodbyes again?
No,
No.
it's too late. It's done.
It's too late to apologize.
Don't be ridiculous.
It's too late.
My bad.
That's cool, man.
You would just gonna have to add your part in about the hanging up. That's.
Yeah.
Do we hang up?
Do we hang up now? Yes.